Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at a new digital art tutorial video from 2004 by Brian Haberlin. This time it's on special effects. This is volume 1. It's a 4-part video. There's some very abrupt cuts in it, but I'm going to just present them as they were and just share the techniques and the information with you, for educational and archival purposes. Let's jump into it. Let's go.
Quickie here. Eye glows. Everybody has to have some eye glows in comics somewhere or in fantasy art, so here we go. This is just a little beastie guy I made up. And let's go ahead and make a screen layer. I'm going to fill it with black. For some reason the screen effects come out a little juicier in black. No one's been able to tell me why yet, but just the way it is. Pick a nice saturated color. I'm going to use my old school airbrush. And voila! Now what you might do too is dodge the eyeballs beneath. See what happens when I glow that. Makes it even brighter. Even if you go over you can do the same thing too on the effect itself. And a friend of mine, Drew, always he'd like to take these eye glows and he would pull out a little bit of a bit from them on the sides. And I'm going to smudge over the top of that. And if I go with a brighter, again, really nice saturated colors, and go towards yellow just to heat up the core of this effect a little bit. Oops, that was smudge tool. See how they really glow now. But the edge is nice too. So again, I'm just showing you. Smudge that. Calm it down a little bit. And if you want to have even more impact on it, I'm going to make another layer. We'll put it in. We'll play. We'll put a little overlay. See how this works. Put a little red in here. I want his eye back behind his eyes to get. I shouldn't say back behind his eyes, but see, I'm still smudging. That's why that didn't work. No, really, I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. Just kidding. Yeah, see how that, by doing a little bit of overlay, really kind of makes then the red also bleed out and affect as it would affect it. And you can put it underneath too if that gets too hard. That works better, I think. And again, you might want to think about, let's see if Just motion blurring them a bit. See how there's kind of something good there? I'm not going to do it. And then I'll show you another quickie effect. I'm going to select it all. I'm going to Control Shift C, so I copy a flat image, or Control or Apple Shift C, and then just paste. So my top layer is flattened thing. I'm going to blur it. Gaussian blur. Now, if you want to soft filter the thing, you can just apply it at a certain opacity. It'll kind of soften up the whole image a little bit. Or I can leave it at full opacity. And give it a mask. I filled the layer mask with black, which makes the layer completely disappear. And now what I want to do is I'm just going to, actually, no, I'm going to do it the other way around. I'm going to undo that. So it's all blurry. I'm going to paint in the layer mask with black and bring back the sharpness in the foreground figure and leave the one-way blurry. I think I'm focusing on keeping the face more in focus than anything else. And there we go. With it. Kind of brings it into a, makes it a whole piece. Anyway, there's a quickie with eye glows and a couple of little tricks in there. On to the next one. Hi, I'm going to show you guys how to add some stars to a scene. Here's a little piece, an in-progress piece. Some robots. And we have our sky in the background, and this guy is just a little, needs some stars. Just need some stars. So let's open up our star field. And this is not exactly a realistic star field. You know, you're welcome to make one of those yourself. I have actually one in here that's a little more realistic, but this is sort of a fantastic piece anyway. I like it. And it's a very high res, so it can actually go across a whole big scene, but I don't really need that much of it. There it is. And I'll show you other tricks we can do with this same part. But right now, I'm just simply going to grab a chunk of it. Control C or Command C, copy. And then Control V or Apple Command V, paste it in there. We'll put it in screen mode. I'm going to scale it to how I want it. Now you can also make a selection of the sky. I'm just going to show you kind of a quickie way of how to put it in there. Now you also notice in the screen mode, this starry sky has some blue. It's not a pure black sky in it, so you'll see how it kind of has that. I don't want to say chalky, but a little bit of a haze to it. We want to get rid of that. That's easily done in levels. My computer's not happy with me at the moment. Come on, computer. Okay. So okay. Sometimes this keyboard gets some things stuck on it. There we go. All right. Chances are when Photoshop's not doing what you want it to do, that you have like some sort of key depressed by accident or something like that. And occasionally, on my favorite computer, which is sad, the keyboard tends to have a key that sticks every once in a while. So all of a sudden it will misbehave, and I have to sort of figure out, oh, that's why it's misbehaving. All right, see how I've brought in the darks to where they are transparent. And let's say that that starry sky is too much for you too. You can come down here and eliminate all the really bright brights. But I'm going to keep it like that. I'm just going to go in with the eraser tool and just erase all the areas that shouldn't have stars on them, which are our foreground areas. But then I'm going to show you some other tricks as well with that. Just going in loosey-goosey, nothing really tight. Now I have some clouds in here, so you don't want the stars in front of the clouds, of course, because then they wouldn't be stars. More clouds here. Shape so much. Okay. Now I'm going to use the rubber stamp tool, and holding the Alt key, pick where your source is from, because I want to add some stars back down here, because I didn't like those couple crosshair stars that were there. And I'll do the same thing over here. And let's give the stars a little more of a color. Colorize. And you could do something really fantastic with them and just, have them be a completely odd color if you want. And in reality, different stars cast different color. But I like a little bit of blue to mine usually, so I'm going to go with a blue. And again, if you want to bring down the saturation, you can get that sort of, not saturation, but the lightness. And I'm going to leave it like that. Erase a few more. They're in an odd place. Okay. And there we go. Stars. That's without the stars. And that's with the stars. And now it also showed me that I had some glow going on there. Okay. Now with the same effect, I'll show you how you can do something else with it. Let's make it so the scene is now also in the snow. I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to fill it with color. I'll put it in color mode. So I'm just going to wash some color over. Put it down to about, let's see, about there. That looks nice and cold. And I'm going to take our stars again. But I'm not going to take anything that is, well, you'll see. I'm going to go ahead and paste that same selection in. And size it up. I'm going to get rid of anything that's obviously starry. So, take the brush tool. But I want to have it on a... And I'm going to do another levels on here. Get rid of the comet. Probably shouldn't be in snow, should it? Some of this other stuff can work out okay. All the kind of round, soft ones are the ones we want. Again, I'm going to bring in the darks. This way you can really see it. Bring up the brights, bring in the darks. Okay, normal screen. Okay. I'm going to copy that layer. I'm going to drop the saturation down. So it's just white. Alright, it's beginning to look like snow to me. A little motion blur. People will think I'm addicted to motion blur. Not 150 pixels worth of motion blur. And I'm going to take that other layer that we copied. Again, drop its saturation down too. And we're going to scale that again so we have some big pieces of snow in the foreground. It's going to be mad at me for resizing something that large. But this way you'll get the sort of out of focus thing that you'll get sometimes with if you're shooting in snow, you'll get some snow in the foreground. They look like these tremendously huge pieces of snow. Okay, it's done. And we're going to let's see. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna blur it? Filter. Blur. Gaussian blur this time. And if they weren't robots, I'd probably put some... Yeah, we could do it anyway. Robots are breathing hot air. Put some breath that you can see coming out of their out of their mouths. The thing that's bothering me in the piece now is I'm going to drop the saturation on some of those stars because they're really jumping forward. See how saturation is another tool that will allow things to jump forward if you have a piece that's become very desaturated, like this one now because it's cold and snowy. Let's see too how that layer of color really helped, again, give us that cold feel. This computer is happily doing its thing. Almost there. Okay. So that's a nice blur snow layer. We have the snow coming down, and we have that blurry snow layer. And again, if it's too much, you can always, it's a layer, so just drop down the opacity. And I'm going to go back to those stars that we had before and do that saturation down on them so they don't get me too much. So there you go. It's now a snowy scene. I'm going to put some eye glows on our robots. Because they're robots and dagnabbit, they should have some eye glows. So again, layers and screen. Fairly saturated color with the airbrush. Give them green. But right at the corner, I'm going to make it yellow. Oops. And even like what I said before with the, we'll pretend he's breathing. Have some steam coming out of his. smudging the shape a little bit. And then we have our robots. Some eye glows. Let me give her some blue eye glows. A good cyan blue. It's good for doing some glows. But it helps if you're on the brush tool and not the smudge tool. There we go. I'm always going to throw a couple little lights in his tech too. And then go brighter with the core of those. Made the brush a little smaller. And I'll show you again how to, might as well use these things as much as we can use them. Alright, I'm going to take one of these glows from here. I'll take this one. And this, Control C. Levels. I'm going to make it, get rid of the rest of this stuff. Now this is going to be screen, so I don't care about, just remember screen, everything is, okay, so now we have another effect. Let's make it screen. And if you want to, you can see how that works over an eye, over his eye. I like it because there's a little bit of those little trailing things, and with hue and saturation you can change the color. But what I actually had in mind was to put some light effects on that building. I'm going to make it red. And bring down the make it a little smaller. Like that. If you're too far out when you use the arrow keys to move a selection, it's going to move it more than one pixel. You have to be in close enough to get more control. Let's put a light up there. And one there. And when they're, now notice when I go too close, I've eaten into that other effect. All you need to do, let's see, is you can just make another layer. Boop. Boop. there's lights in that building behind them. They're kind of silly lights, but they're lights. I mean, you can, any kind of thing you want to do. I mean, that's the fun part about all of this. And if you decide they don't work, turn them off. Or if you want just a couple, which I think probably works a little bit better, to tell you the truth. Like that. So there, we made stars, and we made the stars into snow, and we made the stars into more effects. And there you go. Okay, here is another special effects. Another example of special effects. This is the Armored Warrior, or whatever you want to call him. He really doesn't have a name. Anyway, he's got lots of effects, so let's go through them. There's a background. There are jet fighters flying around. The jet fighters are on individual layers, and they have been motion blurred. So first they were not blurred, and then they were motion blurred. And there's jet exhaust from the jet fighters. And I'll show you that. That comes from a program called Particle Illusion. And I'm going to make a lot of that stuff and give it to you. There, it's primarily an animated program, so I'm just taking bits and pieces out of it and then recompositing. We have some glows that are in screen mode from his boot jets. We have, he's just about to, he's not really blasting yet, he's about to blast. So I got these big arcing glows, and there's several components to the glows. We can take them all off. This is the smoke from his boots. Now, the smoke was too smooth. Like, I mean, see how it is? Actually, the smoke was just, this is just airbrush. And then over the top of the airbrush, I made another layer, and this layer was in screen mode, and it's rendered clouds, black and white, and that gives you that kind of nice smoky effect. There's also more sort of jets. See that? Another bit of his power signature. See a little swirls like we did in that one other. That's just some airbrush shapes, and then with a selection around it, and then use the distortion twirl filter on it. Some little starry sparkles. Again in screen mode. And finally, just a couple white airbrush hits over where his blasts are going to come out. Now it looks like that's going to blast somebody right in the face big time. So layers can be made up of all kinds of, I mean, the effects can be made up of multiple layers. There's even these little gun effects from up there. But let me show you the smoke effect first. And again, these effects will all be excuse me. Okay. Here we go. There's an alpha channel in this effect, so you can grab it. Just hit the alpha channel, hold the control key or the Apple command key, and it will load it as a selection. I'm only going to want one of these, so I'll hold the Alt key with the lasso tool and deselect one of them. And the other one I'm going to drag into the picture. Now let's say we want to make this one of Iron Man's, I shouldn't say Iron Man, Iron Warrior, boot jets. Let's go ahead and I'm going to get rid of the ones that I have in there now, which is actually a very simple effect, but that's okay. I'll leave the energy. Let's go to here. First I'm going to kind of get them in the position we want with transform tool. And size we want. But they don't really follow the shape we want. And that's where the ever wonderful liquefy tool will come into play. And here it is. We want to see the backdrop. We want to see what's going on back there. Those are the other layers of the image. You make a pretty big brush, and you can just, with it, practically reshape the whole thing. That's not going to show, but I'll bring it over here a little bit more. And click OK when you get in this position you like. And there it is. See, now it follows the form much better. That's where it was before, and that's how it is now. Now I'm going to go ahead and there's two ways to do this. We'll go with the erasure tool, and I just want to fade it out as it's going away. It's a little too much. There, so it becomes a little bit transparent as it's going away from his jet. Now it's in front of his boot, so I'll just go up, get a little closer, because it should be coming from underneath his boot. There we go. Now if we want to really be cheaty, we'll duplicate that layer. Economy of effort. Bring it over here, do a quick transform again so we get it kind of in close to the position that we want it to be in, and then let liquefy do the actually, you know what, I think that kind of works right there. Now I'll just go in and I'll erase so it's under the boot where it should be. Ta-da! I'm going to merge these two layers. So I'm going to merge down. I'm on the top smoke layer. And again, sometimes, as I showed you before, the motion blur tool can be our friend. But let's see if it for sure is. Kind of does some interesting things there. I don't think I'm going to keep it that way, but there's something interesting there. And that might be interesting if I did OK and then I lowered the opacity on the layer. Or even just lowering the opacity on the layer as it is. Make them a little more transparent, the smoke effects. It's kind of nice. That one's actually doubled up. Yeah, it's kind of nice with lower opacity on it. Okay. Let's see. Let's throw some other effects on this guy. Let's have some fun. Shall we make him actually doing a blast? That might be a good thing to do. Let's see what I have in our pocket full of tricks. There's a blast effect. See, that's kind of cool. That's an explosion effect, but it'd make a good power effect. Let's change his power effects. Let's make him this. Okay? Let's go up. Okay. He has no power. Oh no, I have no power. Well, we'll fix that. Okay. I am not a geek. Stop it. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. It has an alpha channel, so I'm clicking the alpha channel. I'm dragging it up and over. Now you notice that it has sort of these dark bits around it. If you really want it to make it, you want to put it into a, you want to make it a screen mode. See? Voila. And I'm going to duplicate it. Again, you could even use that duplication, like you saw how bright it got when we did that, and maybe it needs that. See? But there, he got some new power effects. I'm going to remove that one over his eye. The way I would do that is, again, just use the erase tool. You can use the erase tool, or you can use an airbrush on black, because it's a screen layer. But since he's doing the power, and we can do this in the screen as well, I'm going to add a little bit of a reflection from the power in the lenses of his helmet. I'm just going to select the area. I'll pick sort of a yellowy. Go to the brush, use my old school airbrush. Soften that up a little bit. And then add a hard hit to it. It's kind of a little reflection from it is. This. And again, all these effects are meant to work the exact same way over inked images or tonal images or whatever. It doesn't really matter. I've just been playing with some of these images lately, so I was going to have some fun with them. Again, notice some of the things we can do with these effects. Do a quick rotation on this one. Make sure I have the right one, and I don't. Glad I checked. Filter, blur, radial blur, spin, draft, okay. Zoom. See, that's kind of a cool effect right there. Really changed the look of it. And if you like a little bit of that, then you can go into, let's see where we're at here. Fade radial blur. And you can just like kind of put a little bit of it in there. So that's like 50% in there. This is a little bit spinny. Or even put them together in a different mode. This is a really good deal. Yeah. But there you go. So it's a new power effect. Now it probably also make his, if he's got these bright things, I might brighten him up going towards some of these powers a little bit. See, like that. Probably not that severe, but just a little bit, so the effect then is not just sitting there. And again, if you want one of these effects to be more of a directional thing, if I take that, I do filter, blur, do motion blur, have it going in the direction that we kind of want, like that, let's say. Oops. I obviously have him selected. Okay, now I have the right layer selected. Filter, blur, motion blur. Yeah, I don't think that really works as well. If I make another layer, I can go really coarse if I'm intending to use like if I'm going to intend on using the blur tool and such, I can just go really kind of rough with an effect. If I had to go do something quickly. And see how it already kind of looks like some sort of a beam power coming out of there, or if you go against it, it can be a good background. Or then you would add another effect on top of that. sure this is on one of my uppermost layers. So it's on top of everything. Put it in screen mode. Did another motion blur, and this time I'm going to go back to doing that straight on one. And now he's shooting. Of course, it doesn't work so well because it is going over his face. But, you know, I wasn't planning on making him blast before anyway. Alright. There's Iron Warrior, and some blasts. Alright. And let's go do another. We're going to work on this piece called World Holder, and we're going to use some of the effects files I've given you, and I'm going to show you how to make some new effects and such. Right now, there's one layer which is just the image of the floating sort of manga-esque woman superhero. And then there's a world. Right now that's in screen mode. That simply is a photographic image of the Earth. Not quite the Earth. It's just a world, I should say. And when you take that and you put it in screen mode, then it becomes more of an effect for you. I'm going to have some rays of light coming out of it. So a simple way to do that is I'm going to copy that screen layer. So we have a world on 2 layers. That's why all of a sudden it got so bright right there. I'm going to do a selection. I'm anchoring from the middle. I'm holding the Alt key. That's how you do that. Because I'm going to use a radial blur. And if you have a whole 11 by 17 image selected as a radial blur, the radial blur will come from the middle of your selection. I want it to come from the middle of that that Earth. So we'll do radial. We're going to do zoom. We're going to do about 100. I usually use draft. The reason why is it tends to give me some little bit of texture to it. It's not as smooth as best, and it doesn't take as long either. So it's always easier to just smooth it out with a Gaussian blur if you want to. Okay, so you start seeing some rays of light coming out. I'll remove the underneath. See, that's almost a cool power by itself. Now, what we're going to do is actually, I have a better idea. Sometimes the effects are more juicy when there's black underneath them, so I'm going to make a new layer beneath the spreading glow rays I just did. I'm going to, my foreground color is black. Alt-Delete will fill with black. I'm going to merge that top layer down into it. And then put it back into screen mode. And the reason for that is, again, it just gives you juicier effects. And I don't know exactly why, but it does. Alright. Now what we're doing, we're going to intensify those rays of light. We're going to do that by going into levels. And I'm just going to make the brights brighter, but I'm also going to bring down the dark. So I don't want it to be pure. I want there to be little, these little kind of streaks. That's a good word, streaks. Okay. And I want to expand it. Now I could do radial blur again, which would make it go a little farther. But I'm just going to use the transform tool and make it bigger, and then put it back up there. Alrighty. My shift key was stuck there for a second. Okay. Now see how bright that is? It's too bright. I mean, you can't tell what the heck's going on. So I'm going to go into hue and saturation. I'm going to bring up saturation 100%. And this is how you really can control. I'm going to colorize it too instead, so I get like sort of one uniform color. I'll bring the saturation up. And if I bring the lightness down, then it becomes like just a pure color glow. There's not so much white in it. And you can slide it along that hue until you find a color that you're kind of happy with. I think if we go warmer with it, we're probably better off because we have such cools in the background. So like a reds would work, or I kind of like that there sort of ambery color we had there. So I'm going to do that. And that was just hue and saturation. Now again, if we think that it's gotten too pixely on us, which I think maybe it has. See, that's what it looks like by itself. I'm going to do another level, so I want these areas to get a little bit more black, so they'll be more transparent. Because I don't want it to necessarily be... I'm putting the eyes back on the layers. I'm also going to center it a little bit more. Okay, I think I am going to do one more radial blur just to smooth that out. So I'm going in the middle, holding the Alt key and the Shift key will make it a perfect square. Filter. I'm just going to radial blur it like I had before. Boom. Yeah, see how that smooths it all out. Now we get this great little soft little shafts of light. I mean, you could even do it again. Kind of center the effect. I'm holding the Command or Control key. When you're on the layer, it will move the layer around. And I'm just using the arrow keys. It's good for precise movement. Another way to double up effect, like let's say I want to just copy that effect and see how sudden it's brighter now. Alright, we're almost there I think. Now I want to add some like little sparkles coming off it. Now there's a couple ways for us to do that. One would be, let's see, I made about 25 effects for you guys to pull from. And we might as well use one of them. Let's see, one of the flares is probably a good one. Sparkles. It's more of an explosion sparkle. Photon. Photon. I like that photon. Let's do that. I'll also show you how to make one too. So, but we'll also show you how to use ones that we have. So this is against black. So again, the black will disappear on screen. So I'm going to just select it, and I'm holding the Alt key and Control key, or on a Mac, the Alt key and the Apple key, and just dragging it right in. Made another layer. I'm going to put it in screen mode. And just put it off to the side. I don't want them to be that big, because I want to do a few of them so they're floating around. That's transform tool. That's Control T or Apple T. hit the Enter key. That's about the right size. If I hold the Alt key and the Control key when I'm on top of the effect, I can drag a copy. Dragging a copy, dragging another copy, dragging another copy. I'm going to drag another copy, then do a size difference. Make it smaller. Do more of the same. And if I want to, again, do another reduction so they're not all exactly the uniform. Makes it more interesting. Alrighty. Now it looks like she maybe is about to do some big giant blast that's going to get you. Or if you wanted to have that sort of anime, let's see, so this made new layers for like every single one of those things I pulled off. I'm going to unify them all. So I'm going to have the selection and see how I'm just linking them. I'm just going to link them all and then do merged link. Now I want to keep it separate from the glowing effect that I have. I just want to merge all the little glowing balls. Merge those. Merge linked. And see it put it back into normal mode. That's what it looked like in normal mode. I didn't want to do too many of them because I didn't want to put them in with that layer. Alright, so that's okay. So it'll be here, and I'll do everyone above it. And merge linked. Okay, all a bunch of squares. Let's see, that's not exactly going to work. I see a problem already. I'm just going to keep them this way. I have to put this one back in the screen. Because see the little squares? See how that's cutting into that ball there? And that's going to do that when I merge it. So all of a sudden the effect won't look right anymore. So what I'm going to do is put that one back into screen mode. And then I can merge link, no problem. That's a little baby shrieking in the background. A little boy. Just in case you wondered what that noise was. Okay, so now we're all set. I can put it back into screen mode. And now, when you have these effects all set, you can, I mean, the variance that you guys can do is just endless. I mean, let's say we want to make them more like comics. I'm going to copy this so I don't ruin my effect and work on a copy. That's a great way to try things out. Again, if we wanted to do a sort of like anime power building thing, so we want to make these things start stretching horizontal, do a blur, motion blur, and just stretch them straight up. Now if you did that and you combined it with a copy, you'd have a little brighter glow right in the middle as well. And you can make it quite subtle. But I'm not going to do that. Again, I'm just showing you the options. You can go into my best friend and fun tool known as Liquify. If you want to really make something that's kind of abstract power-wise. I'm going to click on that and I can see the backdrop, but basically I'm just going to start smudging these things around. Hit OK. You'll see up there is when I was using that, there's smudges it. This will twirl it. This will twirl it the other way. This will pinch it. This will expand the area. And primarily, I usually use it for adjusting drawings. Like if I see an eye that looks a little bit too low or not big enough or whatever, and it will really retain the original quality of the drawing still, as opposed to if you tried to use the smudge tool to make that stuff the right way, or try to control some of the distortion tools that are in Photoshop. It just won't quite work. Yeah, this is really one of my favorite tools in Photoshop. One of the additions in the later versions that really made a big difference. And again, it's good too to just, I mean, let's say you have the piece and you're done with the piece. Okay, I'm done with the piece. You know, start experimenting with different things on it if you have the time. I mean, it's okay. Let's bump up the levels on it. Does it look better with a little more contrast? Okay, let's, you know, see if that head needs to be a little bigger or a little less. You know, and just you can just play. You get to know when to stop, though. I think that's key. If you're doing it in a professional environment, I always tell my guys, it's like, okay, you got this much time to do it, so stop like try and cheat yourself by a half hour, and then give yourself a half hour to mess around. Because chances are you'll find something that makes it more interesting, or just simply better. All right, so now they're swirling around her. That's what they were before, and that's after. And that's kind of cool. I'm going to keep both these effects, and now put back the dots. Now I'm going to take the swirl, and I'm going to go back into hue and saturation, and I'm going to change it so it's not exactly the same color. I'll make it a little bit red, because it's interesting to have a little bit of these color combos in here. And I'm going to reduce its size. Oops. That, by the way, drags the pivot point of the transform tool. Now I don't want that effect going right over. See how I had dragged it so it doesn't go completely over there. So I don't want it to go right over her eyes. Near her eyes is okay. Okay, and then if I want to really kind of get it away from her eyes, remember it's screen mode, so black will be invisible, and we'll just wipe off that part of the effect. So now she's got some cool powers there. Let me show you how to make a quick star of your own. A quick star of your own. Doesn't that sound nice? I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to fill it with black. I think you guys are getting this routine by now. I'm going a little close. And I'm going to... Now, if you need to have like a guide, you could pull yourself a guide, which is not a bad idea. And I'm going to make a simple star. It'll sparkle. And I messed up. Dump. 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 Okay. Hide the selection. Put this in my old school airbrush mode. I just want it to fade off. I want that to be more of a fade. Undo the selection. I'm just going to hit the center with an airbrush hit. Okay. I'm going to copy it. Paste it back in. Screen. Okay, notice my black was obviously not quite black, but I can fix that by, because you can see a little square around it. So if I pull that back in, I can get a pure black, make it 100% transparent. Okay, so now I have stars. And again, just like what we had before, you can take the sparkles, make them nice and small. I think they look better small like that anyway. And this would be effects overkill on this piece. But anyway, it's just more important that I'm showing you the techniques than anything else. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll merge all these guys. And we'll do some color to them. Again, remember, put them back into screen mode. And we're going to do hue and saturation, colorize, bring that saturation up. Now again, if I want to make them, you know, more subdued, which that's not too bad. I'm going to bring it back, slide that to whatever color I want it to be. Usually have proof colors on when you're doing these special effects, because if you don't, when you go to print, they're going to die, especially if you go to like the purples, because the RGB color range is a larger gambit of colors than the CMYK printing range. But if you're going online, it doesn't really matter. You can do all kinds of cool legal colors. I think a little color complement will work well there. Alright, the mad power effects. So what we have is several effects. We have the world that's sitting there. That could almost go away. We have one layer of that effect, another layer of that effect to make it the brighter glow. We have the little glowing orbs. We have the twirling power, which was glowing orbs again, just liquefied. This layer is just a layer I made the sparkle on. So you have that, another thing that you guys can use. And the little starry effects. You know, I mean, and you can just go even wilder. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm going to copy the starry effects. I'm going to drag them over. I'm going to resize them. I'm going to drag them over here, because we don't have enough stars, and you never can. Just dragging a whole bunch of them. Juice. Stars on parade. And again, you could blur all this again, or you can, you know, I'm going to get rid of some of these. Yes, I don't really want a gazillion stars. I just showed you that. I don't mind having a few, though. You know, it's easy to go overkill on these things. With effects, it's really, I mean, this is too much, okay? But you know, it's good for me to show you techniques, because that's what this was all about. I'll leave a few in there. Let's see. And there you go. That's a world holder. And again, all those effects, there's 25 effects for you to pull from right on the CD.
Okay, everybody, that's going to do it for the video. If you liked everything you've seen here today, like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, share it out on social media, let your mom know about it. You know, she likes to know about these things. And yeah, have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.